Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I will be providing my review of the book Star Trek Deep Space Nine Mission Gamma Twilight by David R. George III. This is the first book in the Mission Gamma series. It's a 4-book series, and I just finished this book and thought I'd provide my quick thoughts. So, to begin with, I've read a few Star Trek Deep Space Nine specific books recently, and then I've also read some books featuring the Deep Space Nine characters. And I've really been enjoying getting into Deep Space Nine because I did not enjoy the TV show for DS9 at all. But I really enjoy the books. I think that they translate the best into literature, more than Voyager did, which is sad to say because Voyager is my favorite series, but it doesn't translate into literature quite as well. And Next Generation is a solid series, but it translates well, but not quite as well. But this is a series that really I find intriguing from a literary perspective. And so I have had a lot of fun with this, but I was apprehensive going into this book because I have read one book by David R. George III, and that was one of the books in the Fall series, the first one, called Revelation and Dust. And it was a really interesting book because I both loved and hated it. I thought that half of the book that was on Deep Space Nine was really well done. Absolutely brilliant. Some of the best Star Trek writing. And then the other half that had to do with Kira and her time in the wormhole, I thought was absolutely terrible, and it was some of the most boring writing I've ever read, especially in Star Trek. And so it had the two opposites. So I kind of overall felt it was a mediocre book, especially compared to the other books in the Fall series, which are amazing books. And so I went into this book apprehensive. I was also apprehensive because this is longer than your standard Star Trek book. You know, most of the books in the 90s were about 200 to 270 pages. They had this certain length that they all abided to, and they all had a certain print size and all that stuff. And then as the 90s became the 2000s and they had free reign, the authors did, on the stories, they weren't hemmed in with what the TV shows were doing. They could go in any direction they wanted. The books started getting longer. Now, very few Star Trek books ever surpass 500 pages. The only one that I've read that actually has, as a singular book, was the Full Circle book by Kirsten Beyer. This is now the second book I've read that has surpassed 500 pages, and it has extra small print, which means it's probably, as far as I understand, the single longest Star Trek novel that I've ever read. And you feel it in this book. It's a very long book. It feels like several episodes of the TV show strung together. But I think that's actually quite good, because where this book shines is the feeling and the tone that it has as a Star Trek story. It feels like Deep Space Nine. Like, it really does feel like he had scripts for the TV show for if they had done a season 8, and then he just rewrote them and just turned them into novel format. And he did a splendid job in that regard. It really reads super well. You have really two main plots happening here. You have everything that's going on Deep Space Nine with Kira and with Ro Laren and everyone, and then you have everything happening with the Defiant, which is currently in the Gamma Quadrant, hence Mission Gamma, with Elias Vaughn, the new commander. Elias Vaughn is a very interesting and flawed character. I think that of the two plots, it was the weaker of the plots, but it actually had some really cool, sweet character moments and some excellent themes about forgiveness and some excellent themes about redemption. Then you have, but the main plot, which is the on DS9 plot, Bajor is considering rejoining the Federation, and the Federation is considering letting Bajor return. It can't be one of they both have to agree on this. And the new Admiral Akar, who will be very important in the Star Trek series later on, he shows up and nobody really trusts him. And you also have Kira, who's kind of having a moment of mental crisis because in the last book she was kind of cast out of Bajoran society from a religious perspective, and she's also worried about joining the Federation, about what that means if she becomes a Federation person, and so there's lots of conflict there. But the best subplot in this book is the subplot of the romance, the flirtation, whatever, about the story about Quark and Rolaren. Two characters, if I didn't know that they got together, I would be shocked. When I first heard that the two of them were together, I was like, what? They're together? Really? I would not have expected it. But they had their first hints of a relationship in the Avatar duology, which I recently reviewed, and they actually have, like, this book starts the relationship officially, and they're hilarious together. She's constantly annoyed with him. He's constantly trying to win her affections, but he's so Ferengi in personality that he just can't do it right, and it's just a delight to read him struggling on it. And she even kind of gives him a pass at times because she realizes how hard he's trying, even though he's so stupid. And they just have such a fun relationship. And I found myself so excited when I had a new chapter between the two of them. You also have Quark's relationship with his workers, and there's some good interplay and discussions about work quality and about union organization and things like that, stuff that was explored deeply in the show. It's touched upon here. And then you have other characters like Cassidy, who has a very brief appearance in this book. And also you have the story of Julian Bashir and also Ezri Dax, where that's a story where, because I know where it's going, I'm not too invested yet. Although I do know that Julian Bashir has the best storyline of anyone, in my opinion, in some of the later books. So I am interested to see where he goes. It's just that I know where their relationship's going, and I'm not particularly enthralled by it. So I would say that overall this is a very good book. I think it's a very tonally consistent with the TV show book. It is a book that I felt excited to read. It took me a little bit longer than most of the books I read just because of timing. I have a lot of stuff going on, but still a highly enjoyable book, much better than David R. George's last book. It gives me hope for him as a writer that I might like some of his other works. Also gives me hope for reading more of the Mission Gamma books and more DS9 and Star Trek books in general. And so if you've read this book and this series, let me know your thoughts. Did you like this one? Do you like the later books better? Let me know those thoughts down in the comments. If I should read other Star Trek Deep Space Nine books, let me know which of those books I should read. But until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.